It's neat that you went through all that on a motorcycle. That's pretty cool.
It was great.
Yeah, it's very fun.
What about good?
Looks like a writer or something. Yeah, so this was Peter Nichols, and an author that I love. He wrote my two favorite books of his are A Voyage for Madmen, which was a huge seller, and it's about this race that was done, I don't know, maybe 100 or more years ago, about going around the world, and it is one of the great books of the world. And then I also love, he wrote a book called Darwin's Captain. And so it's about, we know about Darwin and his voyage for the Beagle, but this is all about the captain, Fitzroy, who, so Darwin's in there a little bit, but it's mostly about his life. And it's just fascinating because, they go to these islands and bring back some of the natives. And then there's stories of when they get to England, and it's just a gripping book. But he's written lots of other books. But anyhow, so he was visiting Stephanie and David while we were there. So I just said, hey, let me have you pose. And like I do a lot of times when I paint somebody, we just talk. We had some music on too, but we just talked the whole time. So we were talking about books and movies and all kinds of different things and his experiences. He had been a sailor. His first book, I can't remember the name of his first book, but it's what made him famous. And it was his own story where he was actually on his sailboat, and it started taking on water in the middle of the Atlantic, and him trying to survive, and he does survive, but it was quite a story. So anyways, you can see the painting. Sue's put up a picture of the photograph that I took of him from the spot I was sitting in, probably just with my phone or something. And so you can see here, these quick ones, I'm guessing this was probably about 2 hours maybe. I just start with these big shapes. So I'm just thinking two values, put down a flesh tone, and now I'm blocking in the shadow patterns. I'm using a little different color for his beard area, but I'm just thinking the shadow patterns. I'm not trying to draw the eyeglasses, the circle of them. I'm just drawing the shadow patterns that they're casting. So I'm just thinking those two values to start with. And we're seeing it a little bit from an angle, so it's making it a little longer than wider. But I think you get an idea of it. These are probably my favorite things to do, is these fast paintings from life. And a lot of them come out better than the ones. I've just finished one today that we started it from life, and I've been worked on it for days and days and days, in my studio. And I really like the painting, but these quick ones have a certain immediacy to them that you can't, it's hard to duplicate doing it from a photograph. And it's fun, just also, you can see in the background, we're just talking the whole time. So it's Sue kindly cut out the moments when I was talking, since in my Italian heritage, I gesture so much with my hands. She was laughing and saying how I can't leave this in without sound in it because you just look like you're a madman. So, which I kind of am. So when I talk, but you've seen this probably in some of the other videos. But you can see, once I've got those big shapes in, I'm just starting to pop in some of the different, slight color shifts and working my way out from that center. It's kind of odd for me not to put the background on, but what I do at this point where I have the white background is I'm just trying to have my darkest dark and lightest light in there. And on my palette, I have my darkest dark and lightest light. So when I was trying to figure out the flesh tone in the light, I looked at the model and I squinted and I moved my eye back and forth between something that was pure white in the picture, maybe a highlight on the eyeglasses or white on his shirt. And then I think to myself, what value is that? Is it at value 2 compared to the white and dark? And then once I think of that, I just put it on the canvas. And when you put that on the canvas, on the white canvas, it looks way too dark. But I'm not worrying about that because it's not until I get everything kind of blocked in that it will look correct. So I'm just trusting that determination of the value that I decide when I look up at the model and I think of the lightest light and darkest dark. Now, I don't go into actual real subtleties or details until I get everything somewhat blocked in. And then I can kind of judge real subtleties and stuff. But because we had a spotlight on him, this was in Stephanie's studio, and so we had just put a spotlight on him. So I have a very good, definition of light and shadow. But yeah, this is fun. And that one of the reasons that's my funnest thing is that because it is so immediate, and you have to be very simple, but it's also just fun because you're experiencing it. All I talk about AI and stuff, that's kind of what you lose if you don't get to actually experience even taking the photograph, meeting the model, going to the place. That's honestly why I paint. I like an excuse to actually, meet people and get out into the world and see places, even going to like Africa and stuff when we go on that trip. Yeah, we could find models who are black as well. We paint black models and stuff, or even, from old photographs. But all those things that are going to, maybe they don't even come out in the painting, but you just hold on to them. You learn things. You have that sense of having been there and experienced it. And I really do think a lot of that does come out in your paintings. And, this painting is something that before I paint it, AI would never have come up with this exact painting of this exact person. That's my way of thinking of things, is that it's a personal experience. And so that's just my philosophy of painting. And I don't want to minimize other people's ways of doing things. And I think there are going to be lots of exciting things done with all the different ways of doing things. But I do think the best art, the best writing, the best stories, I think they generally do come out of some sort of personal experience. If you're only just sitting in there and you're experiencing, all your stories are being written based on other stories you've read, and you've never gone out into the world, or you've never gone out to paint a mountain, but all your pictures are from photographs, they're still going to be a beautiful painting, but they're not really adding anything super new. You're not, and you're also cheating yourself from getting that experience. So that's why I love doing these things. And so this is kind of fun watching this. I did this quite a while ago, so it's fun to see it now. And I gave Peter the painting, so I haven't seen it in a long time. Sue had been asking me. I had forgotten even that she'd videotaped this, and so she found the video, and it's kind of fun to see this now. And Sue, you did a great job. The video came out beautiful.
Why don't you talk about the colors? In fact, it's really just a brown and blue.
Oh, so Sue is saying talk about the colors. Yeah, and this is a very simple color, and it seemed to fit for Peter as well, not to do something too bright, but I could have done it really bright, but this is basically just brown and blue. I'm not sure if I did just use, this might be just burnt sienna and black or ultramarine blue. It's possible that there's a little bit of yellow ochre in there, but it might just be those two colors actually. Just the ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. That's very possible that it's that. But it's a very simple color harmony for sure. And when you add, white to the burnt sienna, it becomes quite red looking. But you can definitely see I've not gotten anything very red. So it is probably just ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and white. And certainly Sargent used those two color combinations a lot. And then many of his paintings only were those. And then sometimes he would add a green or add something else in a small little bit. I hate to repeat myself because I know you've seen other videos, but you see how you start out with those larger shapes, okay, and you try and just look at those big shapes. And you notice how I didn't get any details in the eyes or anything.
You used a really big brush too.
And I'm using bigger brushes. Now I've gone down to a little smaller one for the highlights. And we used a cooler light, so you can see how the highlights go a little bit bluer than the shadows. And so once you get those big shapes in, it's about slightly then working the edges. in between the two shapes.